Well, if you have the video version of this podcast, you will know that I wear my sunglasses at night so I can start the Back Nine podcast.
This is the Back Nine with Dennis Williams and Josh Mora.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Mora. How are you?
Did you just pull a 40-year-old Corey Hart reference?
Well, I figure if we're on the Back Nine, I'm going to go to the front nine for some 80s music.
Can't go wrong with 80s music. Not in my book.
By the way, have you seen the We Are the World documentary on Netflix?
You know, I haven't yet.
Oh my
Everybody
God.
recommends it.
Dude, it's so good. Like, as somebody who's now on the Back Nine that remembers that music on the front nine, remembers that song and all of those artists getting together, it is mind-blowing how they pulled that off. Like, it is such a good documentary. Highly recommend it.
You know, what was really funny was shortly after. So the first group that did it was a British group, right? They did Live Aid, I think. And then there was the We Are the World. And then there was a Canadian version. And there were like 40 people, but you'd only heard of like 3 of them.
They were all Rush. They were all the three.
There's Rush and Brian Adams and like Anne Murray. And that was it. And then a bunch of
God, are we
studio
dating
musicians,
ourselves?
right?
Oh my gosh, the Corey Hart and the 80s references. We are killing it right now in terms of our age.
We loved all of it. So.
Anyway, hey, huge transition for you. So interestingly, I don't know what's in the stars or what happens in February, but in 2008, I left my on-air career job in February. I was done at Channel 4 in Buffalo. And then it's just been a huge transition for me. It's also when we started Three Bridges Consulting. I left my other TV job as a director of sales at the ABC station in Sacramento in February, and we started Three Bridges Consulting 5 years ago this month. So, I mean, it's just like something about February. And here you are, 14-year career at Full Sail University, and you are moving on and doing something different.
Yeah, running the Josh Company, I think, for now.
Josh Mora, Inc.
Oh, I like the sound of that. No, well, and
of course you do. It's your full name.
Yeah, well, he could. Yeah, Joshua, maybe. It's funny because me too. There were several broadcasting jobs that I had left when I went to Buffalo. I think I started in very late January. When I went to Chicago, it was in February. When I went to Full Sail, it was in Orlando. It was in February. But yes, 14 years, and in early February of this year, I left that. It was just the right time. Certain things had matured. I have a couple of pet projects, one of which is this podcast. And so it just felt like the time to do that. If there's going to be a third act, and there should be a third act, which is kind of mixing metaphors with the Back Nine, but it's the same idea. We have a certain amount of time to do things that are unrealized. And it felt like this was the right time to do that. I'm very grateful for my time at Full Sail. Wonderful people, built incredible relationships. From the time I entered the university to where I am now, I have grown so much. And a lot of that was because I was given the room by those people to do so. And so here we are, ready to start what's coming next.
Well, I know you said that you haven't had any down moments, and it's pretty new. Like, it was a roller coaster for me every time, right? There'd be moments when you thought, I did 100% did the right thing. Then there'd be moments like, what am I doing? Like, I was like this on a total roller coaster. But I'm glad you're committed, and like you're steadier really than I was in my transitions.
Well, let's see where we are in a couple of weeks, right?
Right.
But in 31 years of having a professional life, I've never been without a job. I've always been able to, when jobs have ended, I've had the next one either start the next day or it was waiting for me. Maybe there was a week when I was traveling and moving. So this is the first time I've ever really been in that situation where I'm not necessarily sure exactly where that next paycheck is coming from or what it's going to be. But I do know this. When I left the university, it was the right time. Spiritually, it was right. That has felt right. And I firmly believe that what's going to come next is going to reflect the growth of having been in that moment.
That's wonderful. And this is a great transition into somebody who's been a big part of the transitions in my life. We're going to welcome in Julie Shroyer from California, from Sacramento, California, dear friend of mine. We've been friends for a while. She's actually married to another one of my dearest friends, one of my best friends in the world, my golf buddy, Johnny Shroyer. So Julie, thanks for joining us.
Love to be here. Love to be with you, Dennis. This is great.
Yeah, so we wanted to start with, you know the show. We're talking about the Back Nine and all the transitions. One of the things that's amazing is you were married, you have 2 beautiful children, and you were divorced. And I was part of the transition for you on the back nine in your new marriage. And the story is actually pretty crazy. Her current husband, Johnny, and I'm telling you, we were golf buddies. In fact, we played so much golf together that people thought we were a couple. And there was one night, we were both single. I was newly dating someone, and we decided that we were going to go to this birthday party. And it was another friend's birthday party, and I had to drag him to this thing because I wanted to go. I was in that mode where I want to be out. I need to be around people. I didn't want to be alone. That was when I wasn't really comfortable with myself being alone. So I needed to be out. So I drag him to this thing, and sure enough, that night he meets Julie. Julie, take the story on from there. Because I just am still dumbfounded by the fact that you think about chances, and maybe you guys would have met somewhere else at some point, but the mere chance that couldn't have happened blows my mind.
Yeah, and your story's similar to mine in the fact that I didn't want to be there either, and Kelly dragged me there, right? And I think it's interesting when you look at the whole situation is love happens when you least expect it. I was trying to be single at the time. I was trying to be okay, I can be single, right? Because I was similar to you. I would always jump into the next relationship without being single. But yep, I was single for about 3 months, nothing. And then I met Johnny, and it just 8 months later, we were married. It was crazy. He checked all the boxes. And when you're our age, you have boxes that you're not going to move away from. So it was really crazy how fast it happened and how easy it happened.
Well, and then you guys
had when you're not looking.
Right. And then you guys had to learn a lot about each other. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to tell one more story about the wedding. So it's a small wedding. It's in Granite Bay. And they basically let everybody do a toast, anybody who wants to. And I was one of the first to stand up and do a toast. And I started it out with something along the lines, and Julie, you can help me out here, something along the lines of, I can't believe you're with my ex. And everybody in the crowd gasped because they thought I was talking about Julie. But I was making a joke about the fact that everybody thought that Johnny and I were a couple. So I had to quickly pivot. I was really embarrassed because I realized, oh my gosh, they think Julie's my ex. No, I'm talking about Johnny. We used to play golf, and we'd show up at the golf course, and if one of us wasn't there, they're like, where's your boyfriend? All this kind of stuff. So I had to explain that whole thing, and everybody roared. So I think you still have that video somewhere. So.
Oh, we do. It was the best part. It was the best part of the reception. I have to say, the best. So thanks for that.
Anyway, you had a big transition, and maybe get into that on because you guys got married so fast. There were some things. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't all sunshine and roses right away. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the biggest adjustment was Johnny's previous wife did not work. And I think that was the biggest adjustment. As you know, Dennis, I'm a workaholic. And so there was adjustments on both sides. I had to really reel it back in a little bit. And then he had to put some boundaries in place because, as you know, I'll work from 4 to midnight and kind of forget about the relationships I have in place. But it's great now because we've established boundaries and really worked together to establish them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So he still lets me have the freedom I need to create and do what I do. But at the same time, I have to give a little bit too. So he's a priority as well. But yeah, that took some time. I'm not going to lie. That was a little adjustment period for us.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons that you took away from that, Julie? The idea that, again, when you pointed out that you're each bringing your own expectations and your own experiences, and by definition, they're going to be different when you're in a new relationship with a new person. So what was the process of finding that? How did you guys communicate that well? Why, in other words, why were you guys able to be successful at that where maybe you hadn't been in previous relationships, or maybe you know of friends who've not been? What were the key elements?
I think the key element was that we were both super honest and transparent with each other. Where previous relationships I've been in, they just didn't say anything. They just find other avenues and kind of avoid the situation and kind of hide it, where Johnny brought it right out in the open. Here's why I'd like you home at this time because of this reason. Instead of just maybe doing something else and letting me do what I do, he would definitely call any issue to the forefront. And then we would talk about it honestly. And there were some heated moments too. But at the end of the day, we came to an agreement. I think communication in uncomfortable conversations was the key.
That's great. And you've also launched something that's pretty amazing. You have a big following on TikTok for Fab Over 50. And just so you know, when she says she's a workaholic, that's the understatement of the century, because I think she gets maybe 2 hours of sleep a night. This is a woman who is producing TikTok videos faster than most TikTok like influencers I've ever seen. But it's all really good stuff, and it's important stuff. You're really helping people who are on the back nine live a better life.
Yeah, I mean, the premise of it was just if you're over 50, I've seen a lot of women, it's more geared towards women that maybe like, I don't want to say give up, but you still can lead the same life you lead when you're 20, when you're 50, 60, and now like 50 is the new 30, right? And I think it's giving them principles and hope and methods, because when you're over 50, your body is different, your metabolism is different. There's so many different things, but there's also some amazing things when you're over 50. There's fitness tips, there's health tips, product tips. I mean, Dennis, now because of the amount of followers, I do collaborations with companies, but I really promote products that I believe in. I'm just not pushing out products that, hey, I really look at the product and go, can this really impact the lives of one of my followers? And then I'll do a collaboration with them. But it's really grown into something great, but you have to be consistent on TikTok. Every day you got to post. And I think that's where people think it's great and it's fun, but it's a lot of work, and you got to be consistent every day.
We'll be right back.
If you need a benefit auctioneer for your next fundraising gala, hire Eric Goodman, who's broken fundraising records all over the country. Josh and I have known Eric for over 30 years, and he's one of the most passionate, energetic, and hard-working people we know. Eric's consulting strategies and successful fundraising techniques is why he raised $1 million in 10 minutes at a recent event. Visit yourfundraisingteam.com to see a video of his work, testimonials, and then book with Eric today so your nonprofit can have a record-breaking night.
So I've mentioned Three Bridges Consulting. What they do is they market your company. They lead the creative, they find the audience. What they produce: commercials, social media content, possibly even documentaries. It's long form, it's short form. One recent success story, working with a home services company in Chicago, a company that refaces cabinets. They launched a campaign in January. They had 5 times the revenue of their previous January and $1 million more in revenue than in any prior month after they launched this campaign. Once again, it's Three Bridges Consulting. The number 3, bridgesconsulting.co. All right, back to the show. I think it's really interesting, Julie, that you do that. I mean, I think most men want to be in relationships with women who have not given up, right? I mean, maybe there are some guys who are lazy in their own right. Lots of guys who are lazy in their own right. But specifically, if they're looking at new relationships or what the back nine of their lives can be, I know for me, I want somebody who's active and interested and engaged and interesting, right? Interested and interesting. So you've mentioned some of the products. What are some of the actual pieces of advice you give to those women so that they can get started? And do some of them apply also to men?
Yeah, it can apply to men. I think my audience, if you look at my analytics, is like 85% women. And I think it's because it doesn't matter what level you're at. Like if we're going to talk about weight loss, if you're 100 pounds overweight, all it is, calorie deficit, being consistent over a certain amount of time. So I think what I do is just break it down to simple habits you can do every day. And I think that's the key. People get so preoccupied with the way they look and the way whatever. But at the end of the day, if you just start with day one and take it from there and do simple steps every day, you will see huge results. But I think what happens is people taper off and stop after 2-3 weeks. If they would just simplify it and do it consistency, they'd see massive results. And that's kind of my station is like, hey, you guys, you can do this. It's so easy, whether you're 200 pounds overweight or you just want to lose 10 pounds, whatever it is, I can help you with that. And there's hope for every one of you at the end of the day. It's exciting. I love doing it.
What's been the most rewarding part? Like, can you give us a couple of cool stories of things that have popped up for you?
Oh, there's so much. It just, the testimonials when I'm like, hey, I tapped into your channel. I've been doing your exercises every day. It's been a huge impact on me. And I really, when people change their physical appearance, it goes into every part of their life. They're more confident. Mm-hmm. They're healthier. They're not sick. It's more about the confidence of the person. And that's what's the most rewarding, is seeing somebody grasp onto it, execute, and see the results. That's it. I mean, there's so many stories that I love to share. I mean, it's the one thing that gives me purpose, I think, because I've been through some tough things. I've been through some marital things and work, and I've been through every gamut. But at the end of the day, that makes you stronger and more refined, and actually able to share when you're vulnerable like that. That's when you're able to share more.
How did you find? Yeah. How did you find your way to that? Because there are certainly people who, when they're going through various things, marital work, whatever it might be, that are struggling to find that sense of purpose. How are you able to tap into yours?
I think it originally started with my faith, going to church and finding my faith and really looking into that and saying, okay, God, what do you want me to do with my life? What's my purpose? And looking at that, I was able to really look at the opportunities out there. And this kind of fell in my lap. I think things just happen and get put in your place when you ask for direction.
Where do you think that motivation comes from? Like, you are so driven. I mean, I can't make light of this. You are one of the most driven people I know, just from the TikTok. And then we haven't even talked about your amazing career running a title company, like all of that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, and then all of the stuff you do with Bayside Church. Like, I mean, it's a lot. And your daughter, I mean, you spend a lot of time with your kids still. I mean, and your son. So it's amazing. Like, how do you do it? Where did it come from, all this energy?
Unfortunately, where it came from was, I think I lost a lot of really influential people early on in my life. And I think I realized how short life can be. And so the more I can do, and however long my life is, and the more impact I can have, that's probably why I work so much, because I'm always thinking I can do more. And I need to work on that myself, because I am a little bit too driven, if you ask my husband. But I think it's just like, I wonder, like, how much time do I have on this earth? I want to impact as many people as I can. I want to win. I'm competitive, Dennis. I love to win whatever I'm doing. And so I don't know. That's a good question, but I think it comes from losing important people that were really young, like 38, 41. That's so young. And life is short, and you got to live it, and you got to be happy, and you got to live it with passion, because you could be gone tomorrow. That's kind of my mindset. And
maybe that's what drove you to learn TikTok, because to my mind, I mean, I'm not a Facebook guy. I graduated from I'm still on Facebook, but I don't use that primarily. But that really is, I think, what the kids think that we're on, right? But TikTok really has been for my kids. That's where they are, my 20-something girls. How did you find your way to that, and how has that become an effective medium for you? And what would you say to the rest of the people who are of our age about TikTok?
Yeah, well, don't quote me on this, but I think TikTok just passed Google as a search engine, believe it or not.
Really?
So, yeah, and the only reason I stumbled onto TikTok was COVID hit, and I am a sales manager. And when COVID hit, all my real estate agents and lenders went to their homes. There was no way to do sales calls. So the only way to get in front of prospects was social media. And my daughter said, you should get on TikTok. It's going to be the next big thing. And I'll be honest, I stumbled on it, and a video went viral, and I'm like, that's all it takes to get 1 million views. I got this, right? So I got a little lucky at the beginning, and then was like, I can do this. And then just consistently posted every day. And I started it March 2020. So that tells you it took me almost 3 years to build 250,000 followers. And then I was also featured on the Dr. Oz show. So that, because of my TikTok, that kind of really propelled it into the next level, I think.
And is that TikTok still pinned at the top of your feed?
No, I have new ones, Dennis. I have new pins.
No, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great. So how can people find you on TikTok? Just
put Fab Over 50 all together, FABOVER 50, and you'll find me.
50, the number 50.
I'd love
as opposed to the
followers.
word.
That'd be great.
The word 50 or the number 50?
The number 50.
Okay, so Fab Over 50.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Right.
That's it.
Well, Julie, thank you so much. We could have talked to you for an hour, because I know we go back, and the impact that you've had on my life, and I've talked about certain things in the show. You said something early in the show about spending time alone. You taught me that, like, spend time alone before you jump into a new relationship. That was something that I got from you, and I took that advice to heart, and it really helped me out. So there's no question that you've impacted a lot of people, including myself.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you both for having me on. I appreciate it so much.
All right,
Thank you,
Julie.
Julie. Great to see you.
We'll talk to you soon. I'll be in touch. Tell Johnny I said hi. Well, anyway, that was awesome to have her on, and obviously we go way back, and it's personal for me because they have impacted my life, like I said, in a lot of different ways. Her and her husband, and she's a testament to the back nine, right? I mean, everything she's doing with Fab Over 50, and then just her whole life. And I love the part about life is short. I mean, I think that I've been dealing with that. I'm almost a little bit neurotic when it comes to like seeing 68-year-old or 70-year-old celebrities pass and then thinking about how many years that is from right now. Like when I see that, it's so impactful. So when she talks about losing people early in her life, I more think about it these days of how many holes do I have left? I really do think about that. So what's the quality? I mean, all we really have left is time, and how do we use it?
Yeah, that's a theme that's come up in episodes in the first season. I know it's a theme that we're going to explore again later in season 2. But the very end of Julie being with us, you talked about the importance of her telling you, get comfortable with being alone, right? And that was a message that was specific for you. But I think one of the things that's brilliant about her and what she is doing with the Fab Over 50 TikToks and website and the whole brand of it is that there's lots of little nuggets. That nugget worked for you. There might be other nuggets and other elements of how to be Fab Over 50 that will appeal to other people. So it's a wide range of topics that she's exploring, and those are the kinds of resources that I think are really important for our audience.
She also has a little, I mean, it's fun too. She has a lot of, when you check it out, she has a lot of little life hacks, things that she's seen over the years, like some really fun stuff too, just little asides. And so, it's cool. It's something that everybody should follow. Even the guys listening to the show should follow it.
Absolutely. And just the idea of, I mean, I love that she's embraced the young people's technology, right? I mean, I've struggled to get involved with TikTok. I'm on a lot of the socials, but not that one. And I think there's advice there too. Lean in, whatever's going on. Just because so what if you're the old guy at the party or the old gal at the party, right? You're at the party, right? Be there. Lean into all those things.
Right. I think the other thing is, and this has come up before on our show, and I love that both of them did this. That night they started at yes. Yes, I'll go to that party. Right. Yes, I'll go to that. And if they hadn't, they might not be where they are right now. And I think that's really, really important. I think the fact that they were able to get together that way, both having a friend say, and they said, all right, yes, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's another piece of advice I'd say. If you're thinking about saying no, maybe say yes instead.
You cannot meet that other person. You cannot make that business connection. You cannot have a fabulous experience with other people if you're sitting home alone. Now, there are times to sit home alone for sure and be comfortable with that. But if you're really trying to make something happen in your life, make a change, you've got to go out and meet that opportunity where it is.
By the way, congratulations on your transition. We started this show. I don't want to bury the lead, if you will. Congratulations in your transition. These are big, pivotal moments, and you'll look back with a smile on your face, and you'll remember this month, and you'll remember the transition, and it's all part of the journey. It's going to be great for you.
Look at me right now.
I know, you're smiling. You're smiling. You're smiling. I love it. For it. Well, thanks so much for joining us in this episode of The Back Nine. We will see you again very soon. Thanks for teeing it up with Josh and me on the Back Nine podcast. We would be eternally grateful if you could download and follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a 5-star rating.
The Back Nine is flawlessly constructed by Janine Stella and recorded at Pixelworks Studios in Delray Beach, Florida.